Okay, and thank you for joining us. We're here with another edition of Bike Walk Connecticut, and today I have with me, as always, my partner, counterpart, and we have put a lot of effort into the trails this year. We're getting a lot out of the trails this year. Bruce Donald, who is the Northeast manager of the East Coast Greenway, and that is Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Central Massachusetts. And you're involved in a few other things, and your resume is too long, but I'll let you take over from here. Go ahead.
As a practical matter, I formerly ran the Farmington Valley Trails Council, as you know, for many years. Yep. The last, coming up on 10 years, I've been with the East Coast Greenway Alliance, and I sit on the board of Bike Walk Connecticut, the Connecticut Outdoor Recreation Alliance, and a number of others across the state as well. So, and I'm appointed chairman of the Connecticut Greenways Council by the last governor.
Yeah, and some of your positions actually, you're involved with some of the money and the funding for these projects, correct?
Yes. So the Connecticut Recreation grants that are run through the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection in the state. So that's Connecticut bonding money. Yep. $10 million a year. Those applications are run through the Connecticut Greenways Council, which I am the chairman of. And so we vet those applications and score them and rank them for the Commissioner of DEEP to approve every year. So I'm actively involved, in fact, in funding projects across the state. Yeah.
Awesome. And so we are coming to you today from the studio of Simsbury Community Media, formerly Simsbury Community Television, but Simsbury, as we all know, was the first municipality in southern New England to become a bike-friendly community, and the East Coast Greenway is certainly part of that. Yep. We currently have 11 bicycle-friendly communities in Connecticut, Simsbury being a silver level, and along with New Haven, and the other 9 are bronze level. So we're hoping. There's a couple of the towns that have applied, and by the next segment of this show, we should know whether they got in as bike-friendly communities. But in kind of an overview, what's going on with trails construction in Connecticut and the region? 2024 was an exciting year.
It was an exciting year.
You know,
if you talk programmatically to folks in the state that are working on so-called alternative transportation projects, which is what we're talking about here, there's been a lot of money in the system. So that was, the last Transportation Act, that was COVID funding, there's a lot of money out there, along with the usual federal programs and the state programs. So we've seen a variety of things happen, and on our borders, I'll go to the New York border right now. So there's some interesting things taking place. Greenwich and Stamford got a grant to look at the East Coast Greenway route through their city and town. Yep. Norwalk and Darien are looking for a grant in this next round to do the same thing. So that's the on-road route of the East Coast Greenway right now, which they're looking to take as much off-road as possible. Right? And then the other connection in Connecticut to Westchester County, New York, is in fact through Danbury.
Yep.
And Danbury has...
That's an interesting one, and we've got a graphic we'll put up on it. So describe what that would look like.
It is. So
coming up from the Bronx?
Absolutely, yes. So,
start there.
So in fact, this had a lot to do with the $230 million that the previous governor of the state of New York spent on the Empire State Trail. Okay. The Empire State Trail goes through Manhattan, through Westchester County, up to Brewster, New York, and then heads directly north through Albany and all the way up to the Canadian border.
Right.
And the idea there was to get as much of it built out as possible, and they've had an enormous success there. So, in fact, we've got the bulk of the trail from New York City to Brewster, New York, which is just a couple of miles from Danbury on the other side of the New York border. Yep. And why not connect that to Danbury and then through?
Now, are there old rail lines in Danbury? How? Yeah.
Yes.
Explain how that.
Yes, there are. So there's the Housatonic line, some of which is still being used for freight.
Right.
But other parts aren't. There's also some other opportunities for routing.
Okay.
And one of the things that we're working with WestCog and Naugatuck Valley Cog on is getting a large grant. It'd have to be at least $500,000 to review essentially the options for routing from Danbury, probably going southeast
to Newtown, maybe?
Definitely through Newtown. There's already trail in Newtown.
Yep.
Down through maybe the Larkin and down to New Haven, Cheshire area.
Okay.
To connect with the Canal Heritage Trail.
Okay.
So that's an important consideration.
Yep.
The Farmington Canal Heritage Trail going north, Westfield and Southampton. Southampton. Many of you may or may not know that the railway corridor was finally purchased by Mass DOT. It's fantastic news, and that is now in process.
Right. So New Haven to Northampton's not too far off.
It's not too far off. I'm cagely saying 2028, 2029.
Wow.
To have the Canal Heritage Trail finished. And in fact, I'll get there in a minute. But and the other connection, we just had a ribbon cutting. So that is the Moosup Valley State Park Trail.
That's out east.
Out east in Moosup and Sterling, Connecticut,
right.
Which hooks up with the Rhode Island border with the Trestle Trail.
Right.
And we literally just 2 weekends ago had the ribbon cutting for that. 6 miles of brand new trail, way out east, but a huge connection to Providence.
So what I find interesting is all this stuff that you're talking about, ribbon cutting in eastern Connecticut, that is going on now. This stuff takes 2, 3, 4 years, because a lot of this stuff was Commissioner Redeker.
Oh, you wish. It takes decades.
Yeah, but this was stuff that Commissioner Redeker talked about when I was in his office when he was commissioner.
Absolutely.
Of DOT.
Yeah, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, and because he told me he loves Eastern Connecticut because it's a different standard.
It is.
Whether you know this or not, in Eastern Connecticut, it's stone dust. And
usually it's soft surface trails.
Yeah, Commissioner said I can get 5 or 6 times more linear trail done than I can with asphalt. Because from New Haven, and the standard from New Haven up through Simsbury and going into Hartford into Manchester is paved, right?
12 feet wide asphalt, yes.
Right.
Yes, correct.
So this stuff that I talked to Commissioner about 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? So is now finally getting done, and there's ribbon cuttings. So this stuff does take a while. And getting from New Haven to Simsbury to Hartford, that's really got to be a focus.
Yes.
And how is that coming, and when do you foresee that becoming reality?
Well, let's talk about the Canal Heritage Trail for a minute. So New Haven Phase 4, which is basically a sunken railroad. So part of it's tunnels, in fact. So from the southern Yale campus down to the top of Orange and State Streets is basically done. They're installing blue call boxes right now on the trail for safety. And I'm looking for that to open like literally any time. I just talked to the city planner the other day. Now, State Street is a separate project. It's a $6 million project in DECD money, which is an interesting funder for trails.
Explain what DEC is.
So that's the Department of Economic and Community Development in the state of Connecticut. And that's an unusual purveyor of trails. We usually see other pots of money building trails, but New Haven is kind of unique in how much money they're bringing in right now for trails. So that is at bid right now. They're opening the bids for that right now. For construction next year. That is down to what's already built of the East Coast Greenway. So that's a cycle track going from Water Street down to what's going to be the new Mile Zero of the Canal Heritage Trail
to the boathouse.
which is the boathouse.
Now, for those who are not familiar with what a cycle track, explain to us what a cycle track is. What does that mean?
So that is a separate walking and biking facility built in the right-of-way of a state or private city road, a municipal road. So, so it's a two-way bike trail on one side, and the other side is essentially a slightly wider sidewalk for pedestrians.
Okay.
So that's a cycle track.
So that's going on in New Haven.
Yep.
And then Hamden's done, Cheshire's done, Southington's done.
Southington's almost done.
Yeah,
There's a little piece of Southington. So
okay.
a piece of Southington just opened. We just made it East Coast Greenway, about 1.5 miles.
Yep. Yay.
And which is fantastic news. And there's a little piece of Southington yet at the top of Southington, going into the 3 phases of Plainville. So Plainville will be Plainville 1, Plainville 2, Plainville 3. Plainville 2, which is essentially from Farmington down into the center of town, was just reviewed and looks like it will be the first one built right now.
Okay. Is that going on the east side or the west side of Robertson Airport?
It is going on the west side of Robinson Airport.
The west side of
the west
Robertson.
side.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So it's actually going to go alongside Northwest Drive and then down on the west side.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that routing, by the way, is quite well known, and the town has had a number of town meetings on that already.
Okay. So we can expect completion on that maybe 27, 28?
I'm saying 27 on the first piece.
Okay.
28 on the second piece, and 29 on the third piece.
Okay.
That's currently what DOT is telling us.
Okay.
And that would essentially, complete the East Coast Greenway, as far as we're concerned anyway,
Right.
Going up to this beautiful town, Simsbury.
Right. So we got Farmington done, Avon done, and now we're in Simsbury. And now, as
So
far as the
now-
East Coast Greenway is concerned, we now need to connect Route 10, basically,
to Hartford.
to Terriffill.
Initially to Terriffill, right?
Initially to Terriffill.
So we have a piece of Terriffill done already,
Yep.
which became East Coast Greenway this spring, in fact, because we signed the East Coast Greenway through the center of Simsbury, which it hasn't been for 15 years or so, at least,
Right.
to reflect the fact that we're no longer using 185.
Right.
So we're now using the new piece of trail in Terriffill and the 2 miles in Bloomfield.
Right.
That was done a couple of years ago.
Is a real important piece, because I think very few people want to go over 185.
No.
Or Route 44.
No.
Or it's just it's
No,
a hill.
it's miserable.
The new route through Simsbury to connect Terriffill to Bloomfield.
It's immensely
keeps it
safer.
Safer.
And flatter.
And flatter.
which everyone loves. So that project, so this would be Terriffill 2, right? Which is actually really likely, according to the town and DOT, going to be Terriffill 2 and Terriffill 3.
Yep.
Terriffill 3 will be the new bridge over the Farmington River.
Over the Farmington River.
Which is going to be...
Which looks stunning. I've seen pictures of it. It looks stunning.
Well, there's an artist's representation of it.
Yes, no, the artist representation looks stunning.
It may or may not actually look like that, but I can tell you that it won't be cheap.
Yep.
The trail itself, we pretty much know where it's going to go. It's going to go, within the old bed of the old abandoned railroad.
Right.
Mostly.
For those of you out there that don't know where exactly that would connect, think of the new Big Y in Simsbury.
Yes.
And go directly across. There's the old railroad.
Yep. You can walk on the railroad bed.
Yeah, it's the railroad bed. It's probably raised about 10 or 12 feet above the marsh.
A lot of it is.
And it goes towards the river, towards Terriffill.
Yep.
So that completes Simsbury, and then I believe Krog just finished a study on getting the East Coast Greenway through Bloomfield and Hartford, and that's being worked on.
Bloomfield, Hartford, and the last piece of East Hartford, which is the last mile and change of the Charter Oak Trail.
Yep.
So the Capital Region Council of Governments, CROG, has spent about $600,000 on a very detailed study of where the East Coast Greenway could go. This includes Terriffill, which is that study. That piece of the study is already done and is on the town's website. In fact, you can take a look at it. The southern two pieces of Bloomfield
Yep.
Part of which will be alongside, but not on, the old Griffin Railroad.
That's a whole segment of the show in and of itself.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I almost don't even want to go
get in
there.
the weeds on that, but
yeah. But and it looks like what's going to happen is Hartford will have two choices. Hartford will have a choice of continuing to try to figure out how to get below 44 Albany Avenue on the Griffin line, which is going to be difficult. Because among other things, there's a freight contract on that rail line right now. And I'm not going to go any further.
No, we won't get in the weeds on that.
Trust me, you don't want to know, folks.
Yes.
But there is another option, which is to go essentially dead east from the Quebeco Shopping Center, which is where the trail will go to, going north-south, dead east through two schools, essentially, the middle school and the high school, along Cottage Grove Road for a piece, and into Keeney Park. And Keeney Park right now has a recreational trails grant to look at trail routing and options within the park itself.
And that will connect to a trail that's going to go along the Connecticut River.
It will. So that's Riverfront recaptures Riverfront Trail North. From the Riverfront Recapture Boathouse, just north of the center of Hartford. And it will go alongside, and in fact, almost all the way up to the Windsor line. And it's very,
near
very
291. Is that correct?
Yeah, because don't forget, there's a bicycle facility over 291.
Correct.
So suddenly you've got a lot of connections. That could go into Hartford.
So we'll get into a couple. One more thing before we get into the subject, and I was smiling when I mentioned New Haven to Hartford, because next June, our next installment of the Ride the State will actually go from New Haven to Hartford.
It will.
And our new partner is CT Rail. And so on June, what's the date?
28th.
June 28th, which is a Saturday, 2 Saturdays after Father's Day, so it's before the 4th of July weekend. It's going to be amazing. To start at the subtitle is From the Boathouse to the State House. We're going to start at the Boathouse in New Haven and ride up the Canal Trail, the Farmington Heritage Canal Trail, East Coast Greenway to Simsbury, into Bloomfield, and then to the State House in Hartford. Have a little reception there, and then you'll be able to take the CT Rail, the train, back to New Haven. So that's exciting.
And we'll put your bikes in trailers and bring them back down there to meet you at Union Station. And pick up your bike and
that's June 28th.
And head out.
And that will be on the East Coast Greenway. The sign up for that will be on the East Coast Greenway website.
Soon.
Soon.
I would say we're looking for first week of February for sign-ups for that.
Awesome.
And by the way, it has sold out the last 3 years.
Yes, so sign up as soon as you see this, as soon as you get word of that. Now, speaking of partners, what's going on with our other partner organizations and other things that you're involved with? We're both involved with a few of them, and you're involved with some other. But let's start with Bike Walk Connecticut, and I understand we have gone, Connecticut was ranked 20th. We've been in the 20s for many, many years.
Now that's the League of American Bicyclists.
League of American Bicyclists state ranking. And we are now just announcing that we're going to be 13th. So we moved from 20th to 13th place.
And I would argue rightly so. When you consider our neighbor to the northeast, Massachusetts, is number 1.
In the country.
Why should we have been number 20th? So yes, that's excellent news. I think that one of the things that Bike Walk Connecticut is doing that is starting to be very successful is getting out and talking to a lot of our partner municipalities and asking them to become bike-friendly communities. And that we've had some success.
No. We are currently talking to, and I think I can say this, that Windsor, Bloomfield, Southington, Plainville are considering joining the bike-friendly communities, as well as Hamden,
Hamden, there's a few others we're talking to as well. In fact, downstate, I'm talking to a few.
Yep.
So we'll see what we can get, but we've currently only got 11 in the state. As I'm sure you're all aware, we have 169 fiefdoms in Connecticut.
Yep.
So we have to talk to them all individually.
One thing that's very important, I think, to note is we say bike-friendly community. We also include pedestrian and walking. So every time that, even though this is a League of American Bicyclists award, and it's for a bicycle friendly.
It actually
there's a spillover.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because it's not even a spillover. It's just a fact that active transportation, quote unquote active transportation,
right.
Is everybody that's really not using a motorized device.
Right.
So that is the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's people in a motorized wheelchair.
Yep.
That's people on a scooter.
Right.
That's pedestrians, obviously pedestrians,
yep.
right?
No, it's
but it's a group of people that are trying to get places without getting killed.
Correct. And everybody knows I'm a car dealer. I'm unabashed.
Everyone knows.
Everybody knows I'm a car dealer, everybody knows that I'm a cyclist, and I've ridden my bike across country, and
yep.
and I've also been hit from behind by a car, went backwards to the windshield. So I have a lot of experience cycling. But it's a question now of how do we make the streets and how do we make infrastructure that's safe for cycling and pedestrians.
Yes.
So
that's
go ahead.
Well, so that goes to some of the lobbying aspects of what we do. So Bike Walk Connecticut, of course, we've got a small L lobbying committee.
Yep.
That Ernie and I go out and we're talking to the transportation co-chairs in a few weeks.
Yep.
The Connecticut Outdoor Recreation Alliance, who I'm on the board of and work heavily with, also does that as well. And some others out there that we work with, Connecticut Forest and Park Association,
yep.
Just to name a few,
yep.
Are very active in trails and I go back to active transportation, but call it bike ped issues. How's that?
Okay.
So bike ped issues, particularly as they relate to street safety, that would be one thing, but also getting off the streets and getting onto dedicated trail systems.
Okay.
And so that's legislatively the safety issue and finding money for trails and particularly trail maintenance is high on the agenda this year.
Yep.
2025, the legislature sits a little early, so it's a longer session than it has been. Certainly last year was a shorter session. So we have more chance to initiate some legislation ideas, some safety ideas. And we've all kind of collectively, all these groups have been talking to each other. In fact, I just had a meeting at DOT with the commissioner of DOT to talk about what they are potentially looking for legislation too.
I find Commissioner Eucalito a breath of fresh air. I find him he's young, and he seems to be very proactive and very excited about active transportation. And what's your feeling on
Well, first of all, he's a townie. He's a local, right?
Yep.
He gets it.
And they started an active transportation unit this year?
They did.
Explain that a little bit.
So traditionally, in order to get the federal recreational grants program money, which is, by the way, much less than the Connecticut trail money, you have to name within your DOT a bike ped administrator or coordinator or whatever you want to call it. But essentially, somebody to report to the federal program. And so
in this case is Anna Bergeron?
It was Anna Bergeron. So Anna Bergeron now has been kicked up the ladder a little bit and now runs this alternative transportation system within Connecticut DOT. And she's got 2 to 3 employees under her. One of which now
we got to get her group on this show. We got to get her.
We should.
Group on this show.
We should. In fact, we should get the whole group because Paul and Chris are fantastic guys. They do a great job, and they've been going to a lot of these meetings I've been talking about.
Yep.
Various annual meetings this time of year. Obviously, we're in December. everyone's having their annual meeting. But they're important because they're a contact source at DOT that you remember the bad days.
Oh yeah.
When you couldn't get anybody to talk to you at DOT.
No communication.
And it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So this is that's very positive.
Yeah,
news.
and and Safe Routes to School. I believe we have a new coordinator.
For Safe Routes to Schools. So that's a state coordinator. And so very positive events there.
Yep.
Just to go back to partners for a minute. So I mentioned legislation. That's always out there. Projects and rides. So another East Coast Greenway ride, along with the Trust for Public Land, who have been fantastic partners for the last 2 years, is Ride the East.
Ride the East.
That's going to be May 17th.
May 17th, and
that's a Saturday out of Willimantic.
And there's 3 different routes on that, I believe. 3 different size routes.
Yes.
More to come on.
Short, medium, and long.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, using the trail system.
Yep.
Out there, and if you haven't been out there, it's just lovely.
Yep.
It's beautiful. And but anyway, I guess what I wanted to say is that we are seeing a lot more collaborative partnerships across the state.
Yes.
With like-minded organizations, many of which are not-for-profit 501c3s, but they don't necessarily have to be.
Right. Our ride this year at Falls Village, I noticed there was national parks involved with that.
Yep.
Okay.
And we work periodically with national parks. It's useful to note that there is not a national park in Connecticut.
Yeah.
But
Appalachian Trail is about as close as we get.
But it isn't a national park.
Yeah, and that's true.
It's a national route.
Yep.
But I mention that because they've been fantastic, doing a lot of consulting work for us.
Okay.
National Parks has.
Right.
Out of Boston.
Yep.
And they've been great partners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're getting out of time here, but please stay tuned. 2025 is going to be an exciting year, and there's some legislative issues that we'll talk about on the next segment. Once we nail them down as to where we're going.
Yep.
Because I've got a few ideas, and I'm sure people on our board of Bike Walk Connecticut have a few ideas as to where.
There's a bunch of things floating around. Some potential for e-bike legislation.
Yep.
Some other pieces of safety legislation.
Yep.
One of the things that's been floated through our friends at CROG and the Hot River Trail Alliance, amongst other partners, is a fund to set up for maintenance of soft surface trails, state park trails in Connecticut.
Yep.
That would probably be administered through DEEP.
Okay.
That's kind of
That's the only problem with the soft. Well, there's a couple, but the soft surface trails, you're constantly, especially with the rain, and
they need maintenance. Yeah. Well, one of the problems, and everyone knows this, is we used to have 100-year rainstorms every 100 years.
Now they're every 5 years.
We had like 3 this year.
Yeah.
Right. So and it destroys soft surface trails. So it's something that needs to happen, kind of statewide. What else? There's some other opportunities, one of which is for an alternative transportation caucus within the legislature.
Yep.
And so we're talking about a lot of these things.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, and thank you, and we'll see you next time.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education, and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret,
People have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SEM receives less revenue.
Even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SEM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
Or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
Your schools,
And your government
come together.